Hello, good people. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Awakened Africa, and I'm your host, Bemu. So, to my surprise, right, I saw news trending that these Afrikaners in South Africa had rejected the offer of President Donald Trump of the USA, him wanting to take them to America as refugees because he felt like they were being persecuted in South Africa. I know what these Afrikaners rejected. Jokes on Mr. Trump, man. Like, yo, bro, he ain't coming. So, I know most of you you don't understand all this drama, all this movie. Now, today, I'd like to take you step by step. I'd like you to understand as to why Black South Africans want their land back. But before I tell you that story, kindly, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, alright? After you've done that, then hit the like button so that the YouTube algorithm can be very favorable to me, alright? Leave a comment, let us have this conversation at a greater depth, alright? Then turn on post notifications so that every time I post a new video, you'll be the first person to get to watch it. And after you've watched it, make sure to share to your friend. All right, let's get down to it. So, Trump was all over shouting that the South African government policies were bad and racist since they want to take away land from the whites in South Africa. All right, then he went ahead to make a tweet, and I quote, "South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. It is a bad situation that the radical left media doesn't want so much as mention. A massive human rights violation, at a minimum, is happening for all to see. The United States won't stand for it. We will act." Forgive me. Also, I will be cutting all future funding to South Africa until a full investigation of this situation has been completed. End of quote. Well, it is not as if he loves the Boers so much, but it is because of how he is afraid of the South African government new policies that seek to give land back to Black South Africans. I know you might be asking yourselves right now, why is it that the Black South Africans don't own much land and it is their home? Why don't they own much land and it is their home? Come close to me. Come closer, please. Relax. Take a deep breath because I'm about to take you hundreds of years back. Now, this is history. The Dutch East India Company introduced slavery to South Africa in the year 1652, right? However, in 1834, slavery was abolished by the British 182 years later. But do you know what brought this slavery, right? Maybe you don't understand what happened during the slavery in South Africa, but allow me to explain to you who are these Dutch people who introduced slavery in South Africa. Now, the Dutch people are commonly referred to as the Boers in South Africa. Boer is a Dutch Afrikaner name to refer to a farmer. So the Boers of South Africa are descendants of the Dutch-speaking colonists who settled in South Africa's eastern frontier during the 17th and 19th centuries. These Dutch South Africans are a subpopulation of Afrikaners, a large group of white South Africans. The history of the Boers dates back to 1652 when Jan van Riebeeck of the Dutch East India Company established a trading station at the Cape of Good Hope, and the Dutch settlers, who are mostly farmers, migrated to the region and established a Cape colony. All right. This Dutch settlement was the first permanent European settlement in South Africa with a population of about 1,700 people by 1707, right? The land around Cape Colony was, now we're getting to the issue of land. Fasten your seatbelts. The land around Cape Colony was very fertile, right? And these Boers used enslaved people to work to their farms, right? This allowed the colony to grow and prosper. However, in 1806, as I have told you earlier, British took control and the colony began to regulate Boer movement and commerce. Additionally, the agricultural market had become oversaturated, which limited economic opportunities, and the Boers were in regular conflicts with the indigenous population over land, right? Boers are not good people to the black South Africans. Why? The religious views of the Boers contributed to the struggle for independence from British authority. The Boers, identified as Calvinists, a branch of Protestant Christianity that emphasizes the sovereignty of God and the idea of predestination, right? Calvinist theology also promoted racial segregation. They are Christians. Remember, they are Christians, my brothers and sisters, but they promote racial segregation, and the Boers believed that it was their divine duty over the land and the indigenous people that occupied it. Therefore, after the British abolished slavery in 1834, Boers began to leave Cape Town. That was history, my friend. I will take this is history. Allow me to give you history. So slavery was practiced in South Africa from the 17th century until the 19th century, right? So it was introduced by the Dutch East India Company, right? Now the story of land injustices continues, right? In 1913, there was something known as the Native Land Act of 1913 in South Africa. It was a law that severely restricted black South Africans from owning land outside of the designated native reserves, right? So there are native reserves in South Africa, right? So when I compare this to my country, Kenya, in Kenya we had the concentration camps whereby Africans were forced to live together in camps, and you had no rights, by the way. So our South African brothers and sisters were put in strategic positions that were near white towns so that they could provide free labor, right? Now I don't want you to get confused, by the way. I hope you're getting this history. And the issue of land in South Africa has been affecting South Africans for a very long time, because there are some key points that you need to take note of in the Native Land Act, and this information is in the public domain. You can go Google it, read about it. So I've attached some. You can see I've attached some images in my video, and on the land restriction. Now these are the key points about the Native Land Act. Land restriction. So number one, it prohibited black people from buying or leasing land in areas designated as white, effectively confining them to small predetermined native reserves which comprised only a fraction of South African land. Impact on black communities. This led to mass displacement of black people from their ancestral lands and forced them into overcrowded, impoverished reserves, significantly disrupting their livelihoods and cultural practices. This thing was all over Africa, by the way, my brothers and sisters. I've told you that I come from Kenya, and in Kenya we had concentration camps. My ancestors were forced into concentration camps and moved out of their ancestral land. So when you talk about land injustices in Africa, it is not only in South Africa, it cuts across the whole of African continent. Now, the Native Land Act was the foundation of apartheid because the Native Land Act is widely seen as a foundational piece of legislation that paved the way for further discriminatory laws and policies under apartheid regime. Right? Now, I know you're also asking yourself about apartheid. Now, when we talk about apartheid, later on, from the mid 1940s to late 1940s, or there was around 1948, if I'm not wrong, to the early 1990s, we can see that there was an apartheid regime that came into existence after the National Party took power in 1948, right? And it brought into power serious racial segregation laws, over 140 apartheid laws that were imposed to black South Africans between 1949 and 1971. The laws were just crazy because how can you restrict people from walking from one place to another, just because they're black, right? Now they introduced a system of passbooks, not passports, my brothers and sisters, passbooks. And I am telling you that colonialism was almost similar in all these African nations, because as South Africans were having passbooks, in Kenya we had what we call the kipande system, whereby you are supposed to carry this kipande wherever you go. So kipande comes from a Swahili word to mean a piece. So it was a piece of paper. So they just call it kipande system, like kipande cha karatasi to mean a piece of paper. So they are moving around with a pass paper or a card, right? So if you don't walk around with your passbook, you risk getting handicapped, right? So the white people, the minority, controlled everything about the life of black South Africans. My South African brothers and sisters have been really suffering for ages. So they couldn't share social amenities like schools, churches, all right? Even the transport system. Something is very funny. There are only white churches and white schools. We had white pastors who could only preach to white people, and they're saying that we had one God. The Dutch people, the Boer people, the colonialists in South Africa was just dramatic for nothing, man. So they couldn't even share hospitals, churches, even bus parks and toilets, even pathways. Even when you go to the beach, you'll see that you could not access the beach since you were black, right? So I tell you, it was so chaotic, and it was quite similar with whatever was happening to the black community in the United States of America. But the only difference was so the black South Africans were experiencing this thing in their own homeland, right? I'm tired, Papa. I'm tired. While all this issue was happening, the whites were still exploiting South African natural resources like diamond and gold, right? And black South Africans faced the music and they had to dance it forcefully, with little or zero benefits from working in the mines, because everything went to the colonial government. Diamond mining in South Africa during apartheid was marked by racial exploitation, unsafe working conditions, and the forced labor of black Africans. Right? Racial exploitation. Number one, the labor patterns. The mining industry became a monopoly controlled by the beers, which employed mainly black migrant workers. Right? Laws that the beer boss Cecil Rhodes pushed racist laws to force black Africans into indentured slavery. The living conditions were pathetic. Of course, black workers were housed in compounds that were similar to open air prisons, and there were unsafe working conditions The mines were death trapped because over 5,000 Africans died in the mines each and every year. Fire hazards, like in 1988, over 200 miners died in a fire at the De Beers mine because of a lack of fire extinguishers and a closed escape shaft. As you can see from the screenshot, friends. So today I'd like to tell you this, my brothers and sisters, my black brothers and sisters, that be proud of yourselves, because we are the ones who built Europe and America using our own bare hands, right? Because whatever they have in their countries, it comes from our resources. Even today, there is no America without Congo. There is no Europe, France without Burkina Faso. There is no Europe without Africa. There is no Asia without Africa. There is no America without Africa. They depend on us. They depend on our resources. So be proud of yourselves, my brothers and sisters. Right? Now, all that happening in South Africa, while apartheid created a system of vast inequality that made sure black South Africans could not acquire full citizenship. Man, this is crazy. This is crazy. Yes, they could not acquire full citizenship, right? Now, by the way, if you like to understand whatever I'm talking about, I am talking about the apartheid regime in South Africa, kindly go and watch this movie. It is on Netflix, so you can access it on other platforms. It is called Sarafina. Go and watch that movie, right? Now, 31 years later, after the end of apartheid, land problems are still affecting black South Africans, right? So in January 2025, President Cyril Ramaphosa decided to sign the land expropriation bill into law, right? To end the legacy of apartheid in South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa seeks to seize land without compensation under certain circumstances, and the bill aims to provide a legal framework for government to acquire land for public purposes, right? But I know you don't get it. I know there is something that you don't get it. The land audit reveals that whites own 26,663,144 million hectares of land, which amounts to 72% of the total land mass. 37,031,203 hectares of farmlands and crash holdings. It is owned by individual owners, followed by people of color having over 5 million hectares of land, which is 15% of it. Indians own over 2 million, while Africans only have 1.3 million hectares of land, which is about 4% of it. Man, the land injustices in South Africa are just crazy. Anyway, I would like us to watch this video first so that you can understand what I am talking about here. They don't seek to rip off these white farmers their own land, their land. It's not their own, of course, but they are seeking to take land for government and for public development, of course.
There's no intention of the state to expropriate any land that is being used, that is being productive. Residential property, commercial property, farmers, mines are not going to be affected. You can only expropriate in circumstances where there is no current use of the property. There are instances where it says expropriation without compensation could take place. Those include things like where the state or organs of state owns land, but they don't need to hold on to it because they don't need them to exercise their core function.
Those who have eyes can see clearly that apartheid never really ended in South Africa. Never really ended. Because how can you have 72% of land being owned by 7% population of the whole population of South Africa? Like, the minority are still controlling the majority. it baffles me, by the way, when I see someone like Trump saying that white people are being persecuted. He's all over shouting.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
But the South African situation is very, very dangerous and very bad for a lot of people.
Trump is a very funny being, like, bro, did you see what was happening in South Africa during the apartheid regime? Did you see that, Trump? Ramaphosa answered him back. So let us watch the video first.
I don't know what Donald Trump has to do with South African land because he's never been here. And he must keep his America, we will keep our South Africa. That's what he must do. South Africa is our land. South Africa belongs to all the people who live here in South Africa. It does not belong to Donald Trump. He can keep his America. He must leave us alone. Stay out of our issues.
So, man, that was tough, of course. That was tough because Ramaphosa boy got them balls of steel. But the drama boy signed an executive order to resettle white farmers in America. He wanted to settle white farmers, Afrikaner farmers in America, but we surprised. They said, no, thank you. So this brings me back to my introduction part of this video. I was talking about white farmers white farmers rejected his gift, his gesture. Right, so let us watch the video of these people. Yeah,
why would you want to go? Hasn't been any really bad taking over of land. The people are carrying on like normal, and what are you going to do over there?
And he had this to say about Trump cutting off aid to his country.
We all know how Mr. Trump behaves, so. Why should they do that? It is being spiteful?
No, I'm not a refugee. Me, I come from South Africa. I'm indigenous from here. Yeah, I'll maybe go take a holiday there, but I won't go to stay there. Our government is very good to us. They actually just fixed our road, and that actually boosts our business because now there's going to be more people buying chickens from us and eggs and also pig meat and so on.
We have to state categorically. We don't want to move elsewhere.
We may disagree with the ANC, but we love the country.
There's major conflicts in many other countries of the world that actually deserve an asylum better than what we do in South Africa.
The government in South Africa is persecuting Afrikaners community.
I think they should stop spreading lies and propaganda because it's all fake news.
Woo! But boys are calling them, from that video, something is really, boys calling themselves native South Africans is crazy, man. How can you call yourself native South Africans and you are not indigenous South Africans? You don't come from South Africa. You people came from Norway. Is it? So this was an insult to Trump. So Trump and. Man, this is crazy. So they were like, we don't want to move out. We are better off here. Then Trump went ahead to threaten South Africa, of course, by saying that South Africa should withdraw their case from the International Criminal Court against Israel for the genocide in Gaza. And during the genocide in Gaza, South Africa was standing with Palestine. So they want, Trump of course wants South Africa to withdraw the case against Israel. So the South African government said, no, we ain't doing that, bro. So I think Donald Trump is just being dramatic with no solid reason, and he's just, in my own view, is just a crybaby. He's just a drama boy. He should just leave the issues of South Africans to South Africans. Let him focus on the American issues, just as President Cyril Ramaphosa advised him. I don't know what's your opinion on this, but I now hope you've understood why South Africans want their land back. Because man, these people have really suffered. Over 300 years, these people have been really suffering. It's not even 300. It's over. The white people came to South Africa. The Dutch, of course, came in the early 16th. So, man, my brothers and sisters in South Africa, my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, if you're an African by descent, I hope by now you can understand as to why we are standing or we are siding by our brothers in South Africa. It has been my pleasure to be your presenter for today. This is Awaken Africa, where we talk about matters affecting Africans, the geopolitics all over the world, affecting African continent at large. And thank you for supporting me. Thank you for the 100 subscribers. Let us go to 200 subscribers. Let us hit 200 subscribers within this week. Thank you, my people. God bless you, and keep it locked. Keep it Awakened Africa. My name is Bemo. Peace out.